In this video, we're going to be implementing Google Authentication inside of our Angular Firebase apps. So as you can see here, I have Firebase and Angular Fire installed inside of the project. I've initialized a new Angular Firebase application, and I've imported the Angular Fire Auth module from Angular Fire 2/auth. So this is the bare bones for any sort of authentication application. You'll need Angular Fire. You'll also need the Angular Fire Auth module imported. Before we dive into this too much, I want to bring your attention to Jeff's channel, Angular Firebase. This is youtube.com/c/Angular Firebase. And essentially what Jeff does is he goes through and shows you how to make a lot of different Firebase applications and concepts, everything from cloud functions to NGRX and much more. Back inside of our application though, what I want to do is, of course, head over to our app component.ts. So inside of here, we want to import everything to do with the Google sign-in. So that means we need to import from Angular Fire 2/auth, and we simply want Angular Fire Auth. And we also want to import as Firebase from Firebase/app, because this is what we use to generate the different sign-on types. So we can get rid of the title and we can add a constructor. Inside of that constructor, we can add a public Angular Fire Auth of type Angular Fire Auth. And the reason we're making this public and not private at this point is so that we can display the results of the Angular Fire Auth state on the template. So then, as you can probably imagine, we want a login and a logout function. The login function can use this .afauth.auth, and on this object, we want to use the sign in with pop-up. And as you can see from this pop-up, it requires a provider. So that provider can be a new Firebase.auth.Google Auth provider. And that is a function. And when we call this function, what this will do is fire up a Google Authentication pop-up. We'll log in with our account, and if everything is correct, then of course we have correctly authenticated. For our logout button, we can use the afauth once again. We want the auth object, and then here we can use sign out. This can be used across a variety of different authentication options. So whenever you want to sign out from your Firebase authentication, you can call that function. The next thing to do is head over to our Firebase dashboard. From here we can hit the authentication tab and the sign in method tab, and inside of here, enable the Google authentication method. Hit save, and we can then navigate back to our project. Inside of the project's app.component.html, we can add two click events, one for login, and we can also add another one for logout. This gives us the ability to hit the login with Google button. Once we do that, we can select an authentication method, and I just selected an account that I signed in with Google. At this point, we don't see anything on screen, but if we navigate to our Firebase dashboards, we can see that we have this identifier. So this is provided by Google, it was created now, and then we have a user ID. So we've successfully authenticated with our application using Google. So I guess the next thing we'd like to do is display that auth state on screen. Well, if we just come inside of the constructor for now and say this .afauth.auth state, we can see that this is in fact an observable. So we can use the async pipe and display the results of this on screen. So let's then make a div. Inside of the div, we can only display the login button whenever the auth state using the async pipe is true. We can use the async as syntax here to say that this should be the auth user, and inside of here, we can then make a h1, and we can bind to the auth user dot display name. Underneath, I'm going to add a pre-tag, and inside of here, we'll use the auth user, and we'll pipe that to JSON. And if we just make this a little smaller, you can see that we have the display name here of Paul Halliday, but as well as that, we also have a variety of other things. We have things like the user ID, the display name, the photo URL, and much more. So we could get rid of this for now. We can then remove the pre tag and we can make a new image. I'll put this above the username and we'll bind to the authUser.photo URL. And as you can see here, it is quite large, but we do have a photo as well as a name. So the next thing, I guess, is to only display this login button and the logout button if the user is authenticated. Well, luckily for us, we can take advantage of the ngIf-else syntax, and we can display this logout button inside of this ngIf. And alternatively, if the auth user doesn't exist, we can say else login. And we can just wrap this button inside of an ng template, and we can give this a template literal of login. And so that it doesn't conflict with our function called login, let's actually call this login template. So now you can see we have our username, we have our photo, and the option to log out. Let's log out. And when we do log out, you can see that we have the login button once again. So we've looked at a variety of different things inside of this lecture. We've looked at how to log in with Firebase using Google. We've also looked at extracting things from that object, as well as observables, and of course, ng templates. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to check out paulhalliday.io if you'd like to see more courses. And I now have a subscription available so you can get access to all the courses for one easy payment every month. That's over at paulhalliday.io. See you next time.
Oh, this you crazy mother.